Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Advent Podcast. Oh, I can hear myself.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's great. As long as I'm not too loud, it should be fine. I am joined by normal by my co-host Ian,
Howdy, howdy.
and Scorp will be joining us later. But with special guest star today, my dad.
I wouldn't say star. Special guest star.
No, we will call you a star.
Or like a burnt out son.
And then Patricia in the background if she decides to talk. So because we run out of topics so quickly on this show, I decided it would be cool to bring you down and have you tell us some of the old Star Wars game stories.
Well, which ones you want to know?
Any that come to mind.
What was the first Star Wars game you ever ran? If you can even.
I ever ran?
Yeah.
I honestly don't remember the first one I ran.
What?
I remember the first one I was in when a buddy of mine introduced me to Star Wars role-playing game, which was the first one I ever played, even before Dungeons and Dragons.
And
I
forgot that you played D&D. It's not really a big thing for our house, so we don't do D&D that often.
D&D is fun.
If you have
D&D is fun.
If you have the right DM. If you get a bad DM, the game is just not worth
Well,
it.
but that's true with any game.
Yeah.
I mean, the
True.
DMs have to be a decent storyteller to begin with.
Not even so much teller. I mean, because there's a lot of the times the DM won't even actually have a story in mind and just let his players come up with something like, oh, that's so much better than what I had, and just write that down instead. It's more so about how they let you play the game. If they're like, all right, you've been walking for 2 days and now you're suddenly here. What happened during those 2 days, man? Like, come on.
Depends on time.
Was there anything?
On actual physical time that you've been playing the game, how much time you have left to play the game, how much you've done already.
Yeah,
you move the game along however you feel like you need to as the DM.
I had a DM who did that for every single thing, no matter how far into the game we were, and it was just not a fun game whatsoever. So I mean, I know all this stuff, but they don't. So you typically focus on your own version of the Clone Wars, right?
I just started working on my own version of the Clone Wars. Up until, well, it's been several years now, but there were no stats for anything on the Clone Wars. So everything was from, the Civil War up to Return of the Jedi. And then I was actually, like 99% of my games started after Return of the Jedi. Anywhere from the day after to 5 years after, depending on what I had in mind for the game. And I was creating my own new ships, my own new troops. I would create new military factions, just whatever I needed to do.
And that's where Dax Derringer came from, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Dax is like the head of every single big good weapon thing that he ever created. It was just that specific company he made.
Well, actually, it started with Norman Glop, a broad spectrum, multi-level genius that can do just about anything with anything. I mean, microbiotics to biology to astronomy. I mean, it doesn't matter. He's just, for some reason, he is just a super genius in everything except social skills.
I'm assuming the Clone Wars stuff came about kind of when the shows did, didn't it?
The what?
The Clone Wars stats probably came out around the same time the Clone Wars cartoon did.
I honestly don't know.
I would.
But I know, as they keep adding like the Bad Batch episodes in and other things, that there are more people contributing more Star Wars role-playing game stats to the internet.
Especially like Wikipedia. Does that have stats or is that just lore?
That's not really the stats. That's more information or storylines. The stats are like and like in Rebels, that small Imperial fighter freighter thingy that carries 4 TIE fighters. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head.
It's not the light cruiser. Light cruisers are
No, it's
bigger.
smaller than a light cruiser. It's a freighter, but it's a combat freighter.
I think it's just a ship's transport shuttle.
I think it starts with a G. Anyway, I always thought it was a really neat vessel, and I ended up finding stats for it. So there are people out there doing their due diligence to put these new Clone Wars or early Civil War stats online to enhance everybody else's gaming experiences.
I'm actually looking. By the way, I did remember Zeb's species name. It's the Lasat.
Yes, the thought.
Because I went back and continued watching Rebels.
Now, my biggest characters that other people have made are probably the Bounty Hunter brothers of Fred and Seder Logan.
I love those characters. I actually had a nephew with them for a minute, and we either didn't continue or he died in his first game. I can't remember.
I don't remember either. I know that your mother, my wife, played their stepsister in like 3 or 4 games. And the first game, they had her hogtied like Han Solo on Endor, hanging from a pole butt naked in their closet of the ship.
Okay.
Fred and Seder have done some pretty...
She was a bounty hunter trying to go after them, and they caught her, and because she was a player character, not a non-player character, they didn't want to tick me off by just outright killing her, so they captured her, they knocked her out, and when she came to, she was bound by her hand and feet, hanging from a pole back towards the ground, and she was butt naked.
That's not even the worst thing they've ever done either. They're some of the richest bounty hunters in quote-unquote Star Wars, right?
I don't know about riches. I know they have a lot of land. I know that they end up having friends in certain areas that ended up finally getting caught by Imperial forces or other larger bad forces, and Fred and Seder rescued their friends, brought them to a new place, and reestablished what they did best. Like there's Sam, the bartender, that actually runs the bar that they own, but he can do whatever the hell he wants with it. I mean, it's also an eatery.
Leave the door
I
closed.
think the first one was, yeah, but it got blown to bits. Imperial troops attacked it, trying to get Fred and Seder. And the thing you got to know about Seder is that Seder likes thermal detonators. I mean, he hoards them. They make him happier than a teenager with a Hustler magazine. He would carry 6 to 10 on him at all times, and unfortunately they pirated an Imperial freighter, a large Imperial freighter, and ended up picking up 10 cases of thermal detonators. Each crate had 100 thermal detonators in it. So yeah, he got something like at one
He
point in
had
time he had
1,000
something like
thermal
20.
detonators.
He had something like 20,000 thermal detonators on his ship or on their ship, and their ship's a whole other story.
I was about to ask, isn't there?
Ow! 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 Ow!
Well, it's a modified Carillion YT-1300 transport. It looks like the Falcon, the Millennium Falcon, but they made sure to write down on the additional stats for the ship that it has a wet bar. It does have the secret compartments in it. It doesn't have a whole lot of cargo space anymore because they've updated it with a bunch of other stuff.
Oh my god.
Very heavy weaponry, very illegal weaponry. So they're constantly running and fighting, which is what they like to do anyway. They don't really like to negotiate too much. They would rather pull triggers and flip switches than to talk. But it's got proton torpedo launchers, concussion missiles, quad turbo lasers, ion cannons, reinforced shields, reinforced hull, backup alluvial dampers. Yeah, this thing is just a beast. The funniest things about it, though, is that Sater, when talking across communications to somebody, would, like, act like he's pushing in real life, push a button on the table or something and go, bite me, whenever things were going bad. So they actually got one of those airplane banners that you can see flying around like during race time or whatever to unfurl out of the back of their ship that says bite me with an exclamation point behind it. They also have a retractable flip up neon hand with the middle finger sticking up that they can activate whenever somebody's chasing them in space. It doesn't work very well in atmosphere, but in space, yeah, they'll put these two things out there, and it has become a distraction for Imperial TIE fighter pilots when they're trying to shoot them down. Because, you see this bright neon rainbow middle finger flashing in different colors at you, and you can't get a clear shot because of this, flag waving in front of your face because of their maneuvering. Plus, they're shooting back.
But there is no dragon,
And they've ran so many missions, these guys would put Boba Fett to shame. And what's funny is that they started out as smugglers. They've never run a smuggling mission. It's always been mercenary work or piracy. It has never been, they've never run a smuggling mission.
See, I know we talked about the bar. Did you say that they blew it up?
No, well, sort of. The Empire attacked, and they were chewing the shit out of the front of it. And so they got Sam out of there, and then Sater rigged some thermal detonators as booby traps. So when the stormtroopers started walking through there, they started setting off the thermal detonators and basically blew. There's a crater where the cantina used to be, and then there was Ralph, the flight controller for the Mos Eisley spaceport. He knew where they were going, and the Empire knew he knew where they were going. President Sater knew the Empire knew that Ralph knew where they were going, so they kind of got him out of harm's way and took him with them. And that was pretty much one of the last games I played with them. We haven't actually landed anywhere yet. They're still flying around the galaxy trying to figure out where to go. The funniest part of that last mission, though, or not, it wasn't the last mission, it was like the third to last mission that they ever went on, was that the Empire decided to use Tatooine, in my game, decided to use Tatooine as a staging base for somewhere else. I forget where they were going. But they had 15 of the Eclipse-class Super Star Destroyers in orbit in a staging area. Now, along with that, they also had several Sovereign Superclass Star Destroyers, several Superclass Star Destroyers, and then Imperial 1s, Imperial 2s, heavy cruisers, medium cruisers, light cruisers. I mean, there was like, 2,000 to 3,000 ships, capital ships in orbit around Tatooine, just using it as a staging base because they were going to perform a very heavy blow to the New Republic at the time. Well, they sent fighters out after Fred and Sator's ship because they just blew up a platoon of stormtroopers on the ground. Fred and Sator had somehow bought 2 double dud batches of concussion missiles. The concussion missiles fired out the rear of the ship. Now, I actually rolled dice on everything I'm about to tell you. So this isn't just a story that was made up just to make it interesting. I rolled this out and this is what happened. They fired a missile, a rear-facing missile at a TIE fighter. It hit, but it didn't detonate. It went through the ball cockpit, of course, destroying the TIE fighter. So I rolled to see where it went. It just happened to go into a launch bay of one of the Eclipse-class Super Star Destroyers, where they were fueling TIE fighters, TIE interceptors, and TIE bombers. And TIE bombers have, they carry concussion missiles, concussion bombs. Some of them carry super thermal detonators, however you want to arm them. So,
Yeah.
all of these, Imperial capital ships are fueling and arming their fighters in their fighter bays. Now remember, I rolled all of this. The missile goes into the first Eclipse and detonates in the middle of a flight of TIE bombers sitting on the deck. Of course, it ignites all of them. Now, using the standard Star Wars role-playing rules for internal explosions, that Eclipse started blowing up from the inside. One of those bombers happened to get shot out of the Eclipse at just the right angle that it bounced off of another ship and into the awaiting fighter bay of another Eclipse. Where guess what happened? It detonated, starting to destroy everything in there. So that Eclipse started blowing up. So I rolled to see if it would happen again, and it did. And I swear to God, it happened 15 times. All 15 of their Eclipse-class Super Star Destroyers were completely destroyed because of one dud concussion missile and a bunch of bad circumstances.
It's real unfortunate for them.
Oh, the Empire wants Fred and Sator bad.
They stopped hunting Jedi just to follow Fred and Sator around.
I actually did have, I don't remember who it was, but somebody made up a Jedi character to go after him. And that Jedi died very quickly and very grotesquely.
What has
Yikes.
been like your favorite campaign to run with your old group?
Fred and Sator was my I don't know if it was my longest. I think it was my longest consecutive. There was a group of Jedi that we used to run with friends. All kinds of friends would come over, and we did this for probably 6, 7, 8 months. Every Saturday or every other Saturday, we would meet up at somebody's house and run a huge game, anywhere from 6 to 12 people, all of them Jedi. And it was difficult because, I mean, these were all like Jedi Knights, strong Jedi Knights. So it was difficult trying to find adversaries and situations that they would have a hard time getting out of. So it was always a bunch of, like a main Sith Lord with robot or android backup or something to that effect. that was probably my favorite at the time. I mean, it would take me almost a week to come up with something just for the next game. It was a lot of research, but it was a lot of fun when we played it out.
I mean, is that the same group that had the I take down my hood?
Oh.
You want to hear that story, don't you?
Yeah. It's too good of a story not to tell online.
Okay, so I made up a clan of witches, not the Dathomirian witches. I made up another clan of witches that really didn't have a line between good and bad. I mean, they knew right from wrong, but if it called for it, they would use dark side powers for good reasons. And because of that, they did not fall to the dark side. There were also monks on this planet. There were different critters on this planet, like a race of wolf men that I created, the lupine.
I forgot about them.
Yeah, and then there were dark people on the planet too. I'm actually still developing that. I've been doing that for probably 15 years. But there was one character, one of these witches, who just happened to be named Blair. Yes, I know, the Blair Witch. Ha ha hee hee. She always had a dark purple cloak and a dark purple lightsaber. Now, she also had a catchphrase that whenever she would defeat a male in combat, she would grab their nuts and say, "Your balls are mine." Just a little side note. Anyway, there was another.
To give people to make the game
There was another player who, in the real world, these two were just friends. Nothing else was going on. But in the game world, their characters were becoming close and forming more than a friendship. Well, just as they realized that they wanted to pursue more than a friendship, this guy gets himself cut in half by a dual lightsaber wielding bad guy.
Dual bladed or two lightsabers?
Battle staff.
Okay.
Got himself cut in half. And I don't remember. He was a Sith Lord. In my game at this time, there were more than just the rule of 2 Sith Lords. I had to. It's the only way I could keep up with all the Jedi that I was running in this campaign. I had sent all of the Jedi to this planet because they were cloning Sith to become new Jedi or new Dark Jedi to fight against the good Jedi. So this feller gets himself killed right as Blair comes around the corner to see it happen. So as it happens, she's just standing there in shock. The bad guy's standing there looking at her all happy and like, yeah, come on, bitch, do something, you know. Everybody else starts coming in from different areas and, you know, they see what happened. They're like, oh no, poor guy. Oh shit. You know, well, Blair, the character playing Blair, says, I take down my hood. The thing you got to know about Blair is that, you know, out of all the missions we have played, probably 20, 30 missions we have played together, her hood was always up. She never took it down. So when all the rest of the group says that they arrive in this area, and she says, I take my hood down. They all say, we leave. I'm leaving. I'm out of here. I'm not staying. I think one person stayed, but everybody just left. They vamoosed.
One person had to stay to tell the others what was going on. He drew the short straw.
Guess so. She unloaded on
Terrified or something?
Do what?
Were they terrified or something?
Well, she was powerful. She was very powerful. And the fact that she always fought with her hood up, and all of a sudden now she's saying, I take my hood down. Yeah, that scared the shit out of some of them.
Like, imagine Mando taking off his helmet so he could see better.
Boy.
She had the force of the power of force lightning, and she used it, and she rolled so high that she turned that bad guy into a puddle of goo. Even when he was trying to block it, I was using all my force abilities that I could with him. I tried to block it, tried to dodge it, didn't matter. She locked onto him and just kept zapping him, and he wasn't a crispy critter, he was a pile of goo. That's all that was left of him.
Bro turned into a puddle.
Yeah.
Ooh, hello.
And what else was funny about her, though, is that she had a bodyguard, a big old lupine Jedi enforcer named Rufus. And it's a werewolf-looking dude. He's literally like 8.5 feet tall, 400 pounds, and adored her as like a kid sister type thing. He was born to protect her, is the way he looked at it. Well, one of the party on a different adventure, one of the party had actually attacked her, not really trying to do anything to her. It was all part of the game at the time. He was trying to convince the bad guys that he was one of them so he could get inside. But he didn't tell anybody this at first. So he attacked her and he knocked her out. And Rufus just happened to be up. They were in this warehouse, and Rufus was up high, and they were both on the ground floor. And Rufus saw this, and I rolled my force abilities and all this other stuff. And Rufus just jumped, and with his 400 pounds, landed on this poor feller's chest and sunk his chest, just his chest, into the concrete on the floor. His legs were still on the floor. His head and arms were still on the floor. His chest was in the floor. Like, yeah, your character ain't gonna live through that. I don't care how strong in the force you are. You're dead.
Ain't no force healing that wound.
No.
Cracked in half.
So you've been talking about the lupine. You said you made that species. I forgot that you had made that species. I always kind of thought that it was just a Star Wars species. What other ones have you created? Because Ian and I have talked a lot about our creations for the server too, and honestly, I actually want to throw some of those into Star Wars.
I'm working on a cat like a big cat-like species, kind of like based off of the Thundercats, that are also going to be on that same planet with everybody else. I call the planet Bushido.
That's actually not a bad name. I actually really like that.
Yeah, my dad took all of the family points of how to name things. When I come up with names, I can't do anything. I have to look at like name generators or think of somebody's name IRL and be like, okay, if I tweak this letter a little bit.
Well, the first character I ever created was, a Chewbacca-like Wookiee first mate, and the other guy playing was the other player was a smuggler. He took Reebok and Adidas and turned them around, and his name was Sadida Kobir. I'm like, all right, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I couldn't come up with anything. I just said, well, my Wookiee's name is going to be Wanloon. And the game master said that's actually a very very good Wookiee name if you look at all of them. And it's more smoother. It's a lot smoother than most Wookiee names, but you know, it is actually being is that they're bringing more Wookiee names into our knowledge. Yeah, Wanloon it actually fits in with them.
So I know that we were in the midst of making Cybertronians for the Star Wars server.
Yeah. Ow.
We got, I think, about 9/10 of the way done with it. And then that same weekend, you were helping Joanna create another species too.
I was helping Joanna create a species.
Yeah.
What, the powder puffs?
I don't remember. That was the weekend we were staying at the military
For what
base
now?
camp out.
I had no idea about that. That never went anywhere. I did make using actual components and things from actual Star Wars companies and equipment list. I did make an Iron Man armor.
I think I helped with that one a little bit.
You did a little, but I redid it. I mean, the motion sensors, rocket launchers, repulsors, lasers, whatever. I did all of it and put them all together into this armor. Put servo enhancers in it so that it wasn't so bulky to move. Now it's not as sleek as the Iron Man armor. I mean, it actually looks like like a mech, like big battle armor, but it is a battle armor.
More War Machine-ish.
Yeah, bigger than War Machine.
There's some pretty big War Machines. I mean, think about the one at the end of Endgame. That was more of a mech.
It's more like Watch his
unit.
Jiggers. The one that Tony's partner had built at the end of the first Iron Man movie.
Ironmonger.
Yeah, they're more that size.
It's not bad though.
But they are fully capable of operating in space too. They can drop out of a open hatch of any ship. They've got magnetic couplers on their feet so they can, and grapple lines so they grapple themselves to an enemy ship, and then they can walk along that ship until they find an entry point and blast their way in or cut their way in because they have laser cutters on there.
I still wanted to do that half-breed species of the spider people and a human to do a Star Wars Spider-Man.
They actually have a race of kind of like spider people, but only the females spin the webs.
Screw it, make Spider-Woman.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
I think they
Yeah,
actually have
Spider-Man.
6 arms. Or actually,
Spider-Man. There you
no,
go.
I was mixing those with another race that has 6 arms, the Kodru G.
Yeah.
The Kodru G has 4 arms, 2 legs. And then this other one, I can't remember the name of them. But yeah, I was going to have my good friend Mr. Glop
What was that sound?
work on DNA splicing.
Let's see. There was also shit. What was there also of?
Well, there was that large group of Jedi that I was talking about. There were 3, one of them being your mother. 3 of them that were kind of held down the base of the rest of the group.
Gazanti
And
class
they
cruiser
were all-
is the one that carries the TIE fighters, by the way.
The Gazante?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been looking that up for like 20
Told
minutes.
you it was
Sorry.
Told you it was a G. Gazante, yeah. No, but they couldn't land a plane. They could fly, take off and fly like a motherfucker. No problems. But they could not land a ship to save their lives. There was one time Emily was trying to just pilot it into a hangar deck on a ship, and it looked like somebody new playing the new video game that couldn't quite get joystick controls right. It kept bouncing off the outer hull. Could not get it into the actual bay door.
That's actually what I was gonna bring up.
They did. They tore the shit out of so many ships. She did from not being able to land. And she could outmaneuver anything. I mean, she could be flying a brick with a lawnmower engine on it and outfly a TIE interceptor, but she tried to land the thing. She killed 20 people.
Oh God. Yeah, that was actually the next story I was gonna bring up because I remember we went over for a Walking Dead night and Mom brought that up, and
You remember?
you know she told the story pretty much the same way, but there's at one point she goes, "So eventually I just ejaculate." Wait a second, that's the wrong word. I mean, it
Yes.
still works though. It's still the same word.
Well, she wasn't shot out of this ship. She just climbed out of it.
Still. Um,
Hey, I found something. This is mine now.
No, I think one of my favorite creations is still Wolftron, to the point I actually have like put it in other things now, just so I could actually get some use out of it since nobody ever wanted to play that game.
Yeah, I helped you do it because I thought it was interesting, but I didn't want to run it because honestly, it just seemed kind of cliche to me to try to keep fighting bigger and badder robots that the enemy would throw at you. And there's not really a whole lot of large predatory creatures. The Zillo Beast, and maybe an oversized Rancor. Rancor aren't that big.
Speaking of which, I was very happy that they finally finished off that Zillo Beast arc in Bad Batch. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
It took a while, but once he started actually growing, I was like, oh, I forgot he was supposed to be doing that. Yay! Because I think they wanted to do that more as a storyline in the original Clone Wars show, but I mean, Cartoon Network got rid of the show, and Disney and Netflix wanted to work on other things. Scorp, are you here now? No, how's he gonna join the game but not be in the voice chat?
One of my favorite moments, and it's a very short moment.
I was muted on my mic.
Oh, okay. Well, Dad, this is Scorp. We've been going.
One of my favorite moments is I actually had a boss that got interested in playing, and so myself and another employee went over to his house, and he created a character that was he was an ex-Imperial Guardsman. You know those in Return of the Jedi, the guys that wore the red armor, always around the Emperor? Those were the Imperial Guards.
Yes.
The ones that the ketamine frog threw into the wall? Yoda.
The what?
But the thing is that the thing about the Imperial Guards is that if the Emperor found out that they had any force ability, he would take them out of the Imperial Guard and move them up to the Sovereign Protectors and kind of brainwash them into being his own personal force combat unit.
Is this actual Star Wars or is this your Star Wars?
No.
Okay.
No, that's true.
Okay.
That's in a book. I can show it to you. Well, his story went that he left the Imperial service because he did have some force abilities, not a whole lot, because he hadn't been trained, they hadn't been honed or anything like that. But he felt like he had the force in him, and he didn't want to become a brainwashed stooge. So he left.
I don't blame him.
And he met up with the other character who ended up playing a Wookiee. And they basically became mercenaries, smugglers, pirates, whatever you want to call them. Well, in one of their missions, they got stopped by Imperial forces, and this Imperial captain is sitting there, talking down to them and everything. And I was like, what do you have to say for yourself? And the guy playing the Wookiee just made a Wookiee sound, which actually wasn't bad. and it just went so smooth. This whole transition went so smooth. It was like, "Arr!" He said, "Fuck you," and I was like, "Oh man!" I had to stop the game for about 20 minutes because I was cracking up so much. They just played it like
about
they
right.
had been rehearsing this or something. It's funny as hell. Of course, a firefight broke out,
What?
and all my guys lost.
It's kind of how it's supposed to be, though,
Yes, they
isn't
did.
it?
It's pussy ass stormtroopers. Which actually, if you look at the game stats, clone troopers are not as accurate as stormtroopers.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
wait.
that's always been the running Star Wars gag of, oh no, clone or stormtroopers are shit shots. They've kind of finally come up with a canon reason for it, though. It's because the stormtroopers have no visibility.
Yeah, I know. I heard all about it. But yeah, the clone troopers. If you look at their stats, their blaster skill unarmored. The clone's blaster skill is 3D, and the stormtroopers actually have a 5D unarmored. But when you put the armor on, it reduces it to 4D. So I don't know how the clones were such badasses and the stormtroopers are shit, but
Well, it's
Just
the
because
clones. What do you expect?
it's because Disney doesn't look at the game stats. You know, they look at the movie. I mean, shit, they didn't even look at the books half the time. They looked towards the movies, and that was about it.
no, I just think whoever put the game stats out there should have boosted the clone troopers. So whenever I use clone troopers, I raise their blaster skill because I don't agree with the skill that they have.
Yeah, I mean,
Like when I made up my division is much stronger than normal stormtrooper or normal clone troopers.
so your normal clone troopers have what, 4 or 5D?
What?
Your normal clone troopers have what, 4 or 5D skill?
Normal clone troopers?
Your normal clone troopers, yes.
My clone troopers have like 5 or 6D with armor on.
What would you give Crosshair then? Lower strength stat, but you know.
Crosshair would probably have somewhere around 11D.
He has hit
Ooh.
some amazing shots.
But you gotta think, according to the
That
Star
fucking
Wars
hallway.
game
That fucking
rules,
hallway scene.
according to the Star Wars rules, if you take a round to set up the shot, then you get another 1D to add to your blaster skill. And if you're using a scope or a sight that aids in shooting, then you get another 1D added to it. I mean, he's good anyway.
Yeah.
He's really good anyway. But you add on those extra accuracy bonuses for just, sighting the target for one round. And if you do it a second round, you get more. I think it only works with the 2 rounds though.
I didn't like that sound.
So, Scorp, I mean, I know you were gone for a while because you're getting dinner. We have talked about quite a bit. You got any, like, questions about anything yet?
Well, I do technically have two questions. Number one, how does the D6 system work? And number two, have you heard of the FFG version of Star Wars?
Number 2, no. Number 1, the 6D version is you use nothing but 6-sided dice. When you're rolling, you have one die that you have be a different color, different size, or something, and you call that your wild die. That is part of the dice you roll. So, like if you roll 5D, you roll 4 regular dice, and then your 1 wild die to make up your 5D. If your wild die comes up as a 1, it's basically a miss or a fumble or something bad happens. If it's a 6, then as long as it keeps coming up as a 6, you keep adding it into the total of your roll until it comes up as something else, and then you add in that last roll, and then that's your total. So in that case, you've got somebody rolling 3D, You would think 18 would be the highest, but no, I've rolled 32 with 3D
I see.
because my wild die kept coming up as 6. Plus, you also have character points and force points.
Ignore my chair. Super loud.
It is loud.
Yeah, Scorp, we've gone over, and anybody else that's just joining the podcast, which I don't know why you would join halfway through a podcast. That seems kind of stupid. We've gone over a few stories.
It's our
We've gone
viewers. They're
over.
obviously stupid.
Yeah, I
They
don't.
watch
Yeah,
us do
anybody
dumb
who
shit.
entertains the idea of us being interesting. We've talked about a few funny stories. We've talked about his created species.
The lupine.
Yeah, that's been pretty much it, isn't it? And that's been about 45 minutes.
Don't. What are you doing?
Salsa, quit opening the door.
Stop.
What? They're not your friend.
Stop.
Keeps opening the door for zombies to just walk in.
Scorp, where the fuck did you go?
I think we've gone through most of the stories that I always remember off the top of my head.
So definitely the biggest ones.
I mean, we can always switch from Star Wars to Spooky.
Nah, not this
Spooky.
time. We'll save that for another one. When
Castle.
you have to have me come bail you out again. Yeah.
Ron Castle, he's yelling at me because I took my bed
Fucking-
back.
Wait, are you both named
Did you pick
Castle?
up your bed?
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
You
but I am
didn't.
not a junior
Why not?
because we have different middle names.
Is that really
Fine.
how that works?
I'll stay over here then.
Apparently.
I'll sleep by myself. I'll sleep
Yeah,
by
he'd have
myself.
to have my middle name to be a junior. And we named him different.
There was a kid, and I know the kid's name, but I'm not gonna dox him, especially because last I heard he was in jail. Who tried saying that I was a junior and that he wasn't. And I said, all right, well, what's your dad's name? What's your name? And he goes through, oh, first, middle, last, all completely the same. I said, dude, you are a junior. He goes, no, I'm not. I've never been called junior once in my life. Legally, you are a junior. I am not.
He's only a junior if they put it on the birth certificate.
God damn it, Patricia!
Point is that he was arguing that I was and he wasn't
Quit
because
opening the door.
I had a different middle name and he had the same middle name. I got the entire lunch line to turn on and go, you are a fucking idiot. No, you're the junior, he's not. Come on.
The way it normally works.
My God.
I don't know. I myself am had a question. I mean, to be fair, I know most of this already anyway. Kind of hard to come up
Oh,
with questions
bye,
about
sure.
something that you already know about.
Yeah.
Ian, you got any
Yeah.
questions about maybe a specific story you could bring up? Like, I know you don't know any of the stories, but like a topic that would probably have a story.
No, I don't have any specific question.
Trisha, I know you've been listening. You got anything? You're a very quiet person.
Do not.
Has Scorp come back yet?
Yeah, I've been here the whole time.
Oh,
I've been-
you got you got anything that could spark a story?
No, not really. Other than,
Can you tell we're really good at doing podcasts?
hold on. How much does he know about this server?
Enough.
Probably zilch. Oh.
I've told him about some of the wars here and there.
Okay.
Have I told you about the Shintar species I created?
Well, no,
Yeah.
that's not what I'm going on about. Cass, you know my Mandalorian with force powers, right?
Yeah, that bitch.
Yes, she's actually based off of one of my Star Wars characters. I've never played the D6 system, so I'm actually interested to maybe try it in the future. But this was an FFG game
Don't get your hopes up. He lives in Arizona.
for now.
We'd have to call him to be able to get him to join. Well, Dad's been
now.
trying to run a Star Wars game, and we've been looking for people.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. Like, if we get the house thing going,
That's
I don't know why I shook my head
that's
that
at least a
violently,
year
but
down the line, though.
yeah, it is. Because I still gotta get a truck.
I have $10,000 to pay off.
Yeah, and I want a good truck.
Anyway,
Anyway, yeah. Where was I going with this? Mandalorian, Force Powers, FFG. Yeah, basically, she was just meant to have been kicked out. Because I had to actually sit there and research for a while on Mandalorian shenaniganery. To the point I taught myself a handful of Mandalorian, or Mandoa. And
Oh,
it makes me
Mandoa.
curious, did there any
Oh.
wow, words, please work. Were
English.
there any Mandalorian stories between all the games you played?
No, because I didn't
Missed one.
have any stats on True Mandalorians. The only stats I was able to find were like either Jango or Boba Fett, or and their battle armor. I really haven't worked the Mandalorians into anything. I've been playing with the idea of trying to, because my clone division is getting ready to start working in an outer rim sector, or two outer rim sectors, and I've got certain other species that are coming in as like super commandos to work with this clone division, and I thought having a squad or platoon of Mandalorians in that too might be kind of cool.
I see.
I'm
Might be
sure
a bit
with
overkill because they're Mandalorians.
the Mando series being so big and popular right now, there's definitely stats out there now. I mean, hell, they already
I mean,
have
yeah,
stats
probably.
for the
Yeah, I
Republic.
found Bo-Katan.
Yeah.
The way that FFG ran it was you just kind of got bonuses to whatever your base race was. I think it was like a +1 to 3 stats. And a lot more training.
Okay.
Just
The way
as
the
an
the way
idea.
the way the D6 works is that you have 6 attributes, and then you have skills under those attributes. The 6 attributes are you put them up at time of character creation, and except in extreme circumstances, your attributes do not change. The skills underneath them are what you develop and what you increase to make your character better. Now, there's also the 3 force skills, powers. I forget which ones they are. They're either powers or 3 skills: control, sense, and alter. And under each of those are your force powers. But the force skills are less like normal skills. You take those up, increasing them to make yourself a better force character. It just takes a lot. It takes a lot more to increase a force skill than it does a regular like blaster skill.
How long you been doing this game?
Me?
Yeah.
We started playing Star Wars when I was a sophomore in high school, so like 1988.
I still don't know when the first Star Wars movie came out, but that doesn't sound too far off from its release.
1975.
Yeah.
77.
I don't feel like typing this. Castle, I have like a stack of iron.
Oh,
75
cool.
or 76. I don't remember now.
Where do I put it? Nope.
I don't know. I'm really out. So let's see. We did Fred and Seder exploding the bar and their ship and stripping
There we
Mom.
go. Never mind.
Yeah,
Hi.
What?
Just listen back to the podcast. You know it'll be posted.
Yeah, but I never listen back.
That sounds like a you problem.
I don't find us entertaining at all.
Well, you're
Sounds
not
like
in it
something you need
yet,
to
so
start
technically
doing.
it's new content for you, isn't it?
Okay, fair enough. I don't find you entertaining.
I don't either. There.
And we all know my thoughts on Ian.
that was a straight attack.
I mean, somebody has to.
My dad's literally sitting here twiddling his thumbs right now. What was
Any fun
You
Star
getting
Wars
bored
trivia
of
you got?
us?
Oh, dude, don't even start with that one. He could win a Star Wars Jeopardy
Too
game
late,
if
I
time's
already
over.
did.
Because
Nothing I can ask. I
Castle
mean,
and his father would be all over that and just go ham.
Yeah, I kind of never realized that we never did a Mando game. We never had Mandos in games. I didn't really think about that until Scorpid asked.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
that
I
was
am
why.
obsessed with the Mandalorians.
Yeah, I got a friend who is too. He likes their way of life and everything. I'm more along the lines of the Wookiees.
Who likes the Mandos?
Eh,
Uh,
I'm kind of vibing with the Mandos as well.
Like, you
I just
gotta
think their
admit,
armor is
like,
cool. Like I would be a Bo-Katan Mando. Fuck Din Djarin's deal. The never take off your helmet. Fuck that. Like
yeah,
gotta
that is a
breathe.
dumb rule.
Yeah, no, I like.
I understand.
Well, that's
it,
an that's an offshoot of Mandalorian. That those people aren't blood Mandalorians. They just want to be Mandalorians, so they say that they are and
I think
follow some ridiculous religion.
I think the armor is a blood Mandalorian because she talked about being on the forges of Mandalore. Again, spoilers.
Maybe.
So I have a question. What is the difference between blood and religion, Mandalore?
Mandalore was a planet
Yes, I
where
know that.
the religion originated from. A lot of people took up the religion.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's like if you know.
Uh-oh.
Hold on. You got kicked from the call for some reason.
I didn't do it.
Because my console turned off. That's why. Give it a second. Hold on.
She was asking me what the difference between blood and religion Mandalorians are. What I mean is like, Mandalorians are obviously human, but it's kind of like where you were born. If you're born on Mandalore or one of their moons, like Concordia or whatever, or two Mandalorian parents or whatever, then yeah, you are Mandalorian by blood. The Mandalorian religion, which that's what all Mandalores and Mandalorians follow anyway, is their weapons and armor is their religion. But what I mean is that these ones that are saying that they're that they won't take their helmets off, some of them might be true Mandalorians, but most of them are just following, like basically a cult, even though it's a badass cult. It's more like a cult than actually being Mandalorian. I don't know. What's his name?
Din Djarin.
Din Djarin.
Din Djarin.
He said he was rescued from the moon of Concordia.
During the battle, during the Clone Wars, which just still begs the question: why the fuck does he not know what a Jedi is? The Jedi, Anakin alone was the poster boy for the Clone Wars. Sidious made it that way, so
That did confuse
in
me.
case he didn't
That did
get turned into
confuse me.
Vader.
Lore-wise, that was very
Well,
confusing.
there's a lot of things that confuse me. Like, in Rebels, why are there A-Wings in Rebels? The A-Wings weren't produced until after the Battle of Hoth.
And they're still on Dantooine during season 3 out of 4. And they're already using A-Wings then. Dantooine was their base before Hoth.
What am I finding?
No, Yavin was their base before Hoth.
So was Dantooine after Hoth then?
Dantooine was before Yavin.
Okay. Still, I mean, Dantooine is still before Hoth then.
Because what I read was that the major battle that the Death Star plans, when the Death Star plans were stolen, that battle took place above Dantooine. It didn't take place above Scapa Flow, wherever the fuck it was. So that whole planet thing, from what I read years ago, that's wrong. Yeah, and then they also in Rebels they also had a B-wing fighter. The B-wing was produced about the same time as the A-wing, which was after the Battle of Hoth.
Didn't they say that that was a prototype B-wing though?
Yeah, and actually it could have been a prototype I-wing, but the I-wing still, that prototype I-wing didn't get brought about until well after Return of the Jedi. So yeah, I mean, there's some discrepancies that Disney's taken liberty with, as far as putting some stuff in here. Like Grand Admiral Thrawn wasn't even in; he was in the unknown regions until after Return of the Jedi.
What is his
He was-
species?
Chiss.
That actually makes sense.
He was moved out
yeah.
as a grand. He was promoted to Grand Admiral and given a fleet, and the Emperor sent him into the unknown region, and he was there until after the Battle of Endor. When he heard the Emperor, when word finally reached him that the Emperor died, that's when he came back. So he was not there during the Imperial uprising or anything like that.
See, based on how far away these episodes are, this episode will come out about a month from now. So, plenty of people should have watched the Ahsoka trailer by now. I'm so excited to see him back. I really am.
I like the shows. I'm not going to take that. The shows are good, but it doesn't follow the timeline that I've been told and read about as a diehard Star Wars fan.
Yeah, those are, all the old stories that Disney kind of threw out the window. They changed those, that timeline.
I know they
into
did. They did
legends.
They did a decent job with episodes 7, 8, and 9. I mean, they're decent movies, but if they really wanted to make blockbuster movies, they should have just made the Grand Admiral Thrawn trilogy that Timothy Zahn wrote. Turn those 3 novels into books, and they would have had phenomenal success with it. I know they would have.
Indeed.
I mean,
Because you still had Luke, Leia, Han, and Chewie. Everybody was still in them. And the Noghri is another thing. The Noghri was in the Rebels. That's bullshit. The Noghri was not found out until Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Noghri were the people from like outside the galaxy, weren't they? What were the Noghri?
No, they're from a planet called Onager. Vader crash landed on their planet and made them think the Empire was good, and so they supported the Empire until Leia crash landed on the planet. Well, I don't remember if she crash landed or just landed there, but anyway, they could smell that she was a Skywalker, just like Vader was, and so they called her Lady Vader. And so they treated her like royalty, and yeah.
Noghri.
But she ended up convincing the Noghri to switch sides, and then she ended up having Noghri bodyguards, fight to keep her safe, and the Noghri switched to the New Republic.
No, as I was saying, all the old Star Wars stories that they just kind of threw out the window, they're called legends, and I kind of, my own personal like headcanon about it is that those are stories that are told inside the Star Wars universe from rumors that people have heard. So, you walk into a tavern. Did you hear that Darth Vader had an apprentice? Apparently, his name was Starkiller. And I kind of like to think
Yeah.
that through that
That's
it
still
just tells the
crap.
story. Yeah, I know.
It's
Yeah.
still crap.
Some of the new canon is kind of cool though. Not all of it, but some of it. And I found out a day or two ago they're actually going to be doing 3 new Star Wars movies about the Old Republic.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm not real sure I'd be that interested in that.
I don't know either. I would honestly, I
Oh,
kind of
I'm
hope
so
Yoda would
excited.
be in it, but that would probably be the only named character we would see.
Well, he's the easiest one to put in it. I mean, they can
Yeah.
make him look younger just by creating a new
Hold
puppet.
on.
Yeah.
It's about the Old Republic?
It's either going to be about the Old Republic or the High Republic. I'm
That
not
means
sure.
hold on. That means it's gonna be like Darth Revan, Darth Malak.
Depending on how far back they go.
And see,
Please.
they were like, we're gonna be working on past, present, and future. To work on our past, here's this director, and I was like, oh. Then they go here to work on our present. Dave Filoni. I was like, okay, so he's gonna continue on with all the after Civil War shows, which kind of sucks. Yeah, somebody just opened the door. So I really want Dave Filoni to direct a Star Wars movie because I know if he did, it would be just as good as the originals. Because he has just as much passion for Star Wars as.
I don't know. Yeah, he's a phenomenal director as far as Star Wars goes, but I would still think that it would depend a lot on the storyline too.
Yeah. I mean, if they handle it.
But there's nothing we can bitch about because we don't know about the history.
True.
We don't know a whole lot about the history.
The only bit of history that I know that we have is a couple of canon books here and there about how the Sith Order came to be and why they're called Sith. Because Sith was actually a species first.
Yeah.
And then we have the Old Republic game, and that's it. That's all I know about.
And there was some Jedi Master that turned herself into a tree on some planet.
Ian, you got
She
any
did.
idea about that one?
Yeah.
She used the Force,
I do
turned
not.
herself into a
Unfortunately, that's
tree
the
to
first time hearing
protect
about it.
something on the planet.
Somebody just scared Nick upstairs. I heard, and then him hit the ground. Sorry, my bad.
That's bullying, Castle.
I didn't do anything. I'm not the bully. I'm just laughing at the bully.
So I have another question.
To stop it. You're
Oh,
part
good,
of the.
'cause I'm
you're
running
part
out.
of the
Hopefully, I have
problem.
an answer.
How much do you know of where the Mandalorian's first species originated?
He told you he was addicted to him. Don't give me that look.
I am.
Castle, permission to make more
How the-
Mandalorians in the server.
How the Mandalorians originated?
Yes, the very first species that landed on Mandalore.
They probably just were born there, bud.
Didn't know anybody
No.
landed on Mandalore.
The first species
I don't know
to
anything.
become...
I told you I don't know much about the Mandalorians.
Alright! The first species to become Mandalores were called the Tong. They originated from Coruscant. It is
Oh, so they're
part of
basically
why
humans.
the Mandalorians are supposedly good at combating Force users, because they were driven out by the Jedi.
Which would also explain their hatred towards them.
Correct.
That
And
and the many
on
wars they
Mandalore, they
fought.
found the Mythosaur, which became their big thing.
Yeah, big is
Unfortunately,
right.
The the Tongs weren't very good at the whole reproduction aspect, which is where one of the traditional chants that during the Tong era became a thing. The ash of the Tong beats strong in the Mandalorian's heart. Because they started to accept other races. Which is where the foundling thing comes from.
I did actually find out that Earth is part of Star Wars canon.
It is?
It is.
Oh?
There is a
Does that mean
planet
Yoda
called...
is from Mars?
No, shut up. There was a planet called I think they called it Ishtan or something like that. And as it's the birthplace of the human race in the Star Wars galaxy. As their race progressed, they left the planet, started going to stars, and exploring the galaxy and creating the Republic and shit. And
Yeah,
as more and more people left, that planet just kind of became more and more barren and dying, till eventually people were like, man, fuck this planet. Put it in a giant space net and threw it to a different galaxy entirely.
Earth is gone.
That was the birthplace of the humans in Star Wars.
Well, except
I
that
didn't.
the whole Star Wars thing took place hundreds of years ago from our present.
Yeah, but there's plenty of like human theories that humans existed before, and I think it's
I like the
120,000
Earth
years
is
or
a
something
prison
like that.
theory.
A cataclysmic event happens. There's a dozen extinction level events before even the dinosaurs got their turn. Shut up, Ian. I could feel your
I
brain
wasn't gonna say anything,
processing
alright?
that line.
Look.
But like, that humans have existed before, and every so often we get hit with an extinction event, die out, all but a few, and then come back again. That everything
not
that
even
we're doing
sure
has already
I'm-
happened dozens and dozens of times in our world before.
On a level I want to be on. I haven't hit bedrock yet, but
And there was
here we
somebody
go.
found a like a metal screw and bolt, like machine made, fossilized into a rock a few weeks back. Carbon dating put it 7,000-8,000 years old, I think, something like that.
Sounds about right.
You don't know. You didn't look at it. But I mean,
Whoa.
nothing says that the Star Wars galaxy is this multiversal plane either. Oh, I just remembered that the Marvel dice game that we played once or twice too.
Yeah.
We had little figurines for it. I was Spider-Man. I think Nana was Hulk. I swung into Hulk
You
so hard I
just
flattened out
scared
Spider-Man.
the fuck out of me.
That wasn't that was GURPS. That wasn't. No, we didn't have the figurines. No, Marvel Hero Clicks is what you're trying to think of. That's a tabletop game. The role playing game was GURPS, Generic Universal Role Playing System, and a friend of ours had figured out how to make superheroes using this system, and that's what we were playing.
Yeah, I just remember swinging around as Spider-Man, hitting Hulk so hard that I flattened myself into a pancake on his chest.
Yes, and your grandmother was playing the Hulk.
All right, anybody got any final questions here?
Not really.
I have a timer at the top. All right, Scorp, you got any other questions not about Mandela? Scorp?
Smart.
All right, well,
Did
we
you
lost
cry?
Scorp again. Well,
Alright.
Dad, thanks for joining. I know getting down
Sure.
that staircase is a pain in the ass. I do it every day. Oh, he texted me.
What's going on?
Well, I mean, if you do want to come back for a spooky story one, that'd be awesome because you and I have a few to share too, occasionally.
I got bunches of those.
Yeah. Gotta do the Fat Freddy for Rainbow ones. All right. So,
You just like me telling that story. That's all there is
well, this
to
time
it.
I'll have it recorded, so I never need to hear it again. I can just go back and listen to it.
Jesus.
Any closing statements, Ian? Since I don't know if Scorp is back yet or not. Nope, there he goes. His PC
No.
crashed.
Oh, bye. Rip.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening to the Advent podcast again. If you liked it, you know the basic YouTube shit. And yeah, fuck you.